This episode of the BIC Magazine Weekly Industry Report is brought to you by Draeger Rental and Safety Services, your trusted source for industrial safety services and technology. We'll share more about Draeger later in the episode. Welcome to the BIC Magazine Weekly Industry Report, your go-to source for the latest updates in the energy sector. I'm Samantha, your AI podcast host, and today is October 25th, 2024. In today's episode, the DOE invests $2 billion to protect the grid, Evergy announces 2 new natural gas plants, and other top news from the energy sector this week. But before we get started, we ask that if you enjoy our podcast, please like, comment, and share it with your colleagues. Your support helps us grow and allows us to bring you even more exciting updates from the energy sector in the future. With that being said, let's jump into the first story. To kick things off, the U.S. Department of Energy has announced nearly $2 billion in funding for 38 projects aimed at strengthening the power grid against extreme weather, lowering energy costs, and expanding capacity to meet rising demand. These projects, part of the Grid Resilience and Innovation Partnerships or GRIP program, will enable 7.5 gigawatts of grid capacity, accelerate clean energy interconnections, and support 6,000 jobs while attracting over $4.2 billion in additional investment. Spanning 42 states and D.C., the projects include upgrades to more than 950 miles of transmission lines, with many targeting areas impacted by climate events like hurricanes and wildfires. As part of its ongoing investment through the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, the DOE aims to enhance grid flexibility and reliability, positioning the U.S. for a future of cleaner, more resilient energy. Our next story provides an interesting opportunity for suppliers and contractors as Evergy has announced plans to invest in 2 new 705-megawatt combined cycle natural gas plants in Kansas, set to begin operations in 2029 and 2030. The plants will provide flexible, high-efficiency power to support the region's growing economy, complementing Evergy's investments in wind and solar. These plants will bring good-paying jobs and tax dollars to Kansas, said David Campbell, Evergy's CEO, highlighting the role of natural gas in balancing renewable energy sources. Each plant is expected to generate over 500 construction jobs and deliver $500 million in property tax revenue over 40 years. As Kansas experiences record economic growth, the state's energy needs are expanding, and recent bipartisan legislation has further incentivized infrastructure investment. We'll move on now to a nuclear development out of Iowa, as NextEra Energy is exploring the potential restart of the Duane Arnold nuclear power plant, driven by rising electricity demand from AI data centers and electrification efforts. CEO John Ketchum noted that discussions with the Nuclear Regulatory Commission and local stakeholders are underway. The plant's use of a boiling water reactor could make recommissioning more feasible and cost-effective. The nuclear industry, which has struggled with plant closures in recent years, is now seeing renewed interest due to growing power needs. Duane Arnold, closed in 2020, is considered one of the likelier candidates for revival. Before we move on to our next story, a quick word from our sponsor. This episode of the BIC Magazine Weekly Industry Report is brought to you by Draeger Rental and Safety Services. From daily operations to large turnaround and shutdown projects, partner with Draeger for smart technical solutions that protects, supports, and saves lives. To learn more, visit www.draeger.com. For our next story, Tiger Group and Liquidity Services are now accepting purchase offers for a gas gathering and processing plant, formerly operated by Dorado Oil Gas on the Eagle Ford Shale in South Texas. The sale, overseen by the U.S. Bankruptcy Court for the Southern District of Mississippi, offers an opportunity for expanding midstream companies to acquire a strategically located facility. Located on a 17.11-acre site near Nordheim, the facility includes a gas processing train with H2S treatment, dehydration, and metering, plus a liquid train with condensate storage and loading units. It has peak production capacities of 60 million cubic feet of gas and 4,500 barrels of oil per day, supported by a smokeless flare system and water separation at well pads. Midstream companies with South Texas operations are invited to inspect the facility, which presents a strong opportunity to enhance regional infrastructure and production capabilities. We'll close the show out with a huge investment in the midstream sector as the U.S. Department of Transportation's Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration has awarded $196 million in grants to repair and replace aging natural gas pipelines. This round supports 60 projects across 20 states, including $40 million to Philadelphia Gas Works for replacing 20 miles of cast iron pipe, $15.7 million to Richmond, Virginia, to upgrade gas mains, and $6.4 million to Toccoa Natural Gas in Georgia for replacing outdated lines. The funding aims to improve safety, cut energy costs, and reduce methane emissions, with the program set to modernize over 1,000 miles of pipes and prevent nearly 1,000 metric tons of methane pollution annually. And with that, we come to a close on this week's episode of the BIC Magazine Weekly Industry Report. You can head over to bicmagazine.com to read the full stories discussed today, and make sure to follow us on all of our social media channels so that you never miss out on the latest developments, updates, and announcements from the energy sector. Have a great day, and remember, it's what we do together that counts. Thank you again to Draeger Rental and Safety Services for sponsoring today's episode. Make sure to visit www.draeger.com to learn more about Draeger's smart safety solutions for your facility. When safety matters, rely on Draeger, technology for life.